There is a fire within you. There just is. You are here on purpose, and there is a spark that we need, and that is what today's podcast is all about. Let's keep calm and mother on. Mothering is way too important to do alone, and way too serious to be serious all the time. My name is Christy Thomas, and I am here shoulder to shoulder with you, mothering and enjoying life together. This is the podcast where you can focus on being mindful and taking a deep breath with me and learning new things so you can pause and savor the amazing life you already have. Hey, everybody. I am so excited today to welcome one of my longtime favorite blogs. She probably doesn't know this. I probably started reading your blog when it was brand new back in 2008 because my kids were born in 2006, 2008, and 2012. Anyways, this is an introduction. Welcome, Rachel of Finding Joy. That's how I knew you. So let's tell everyone who you are in case that they're not like old on the internet like we are.
The OGs of the internet.
Uh-huh.
I'm Rachel. I go for Rachel Marie Martin for finding me on the internet, but everyone calls me Rachel, which is funny though, because many people have called me Joy throughout the years because my blog is Finding Joy. And I'm always like, well, that's so nice. And the irony of that is the whole blog has really been about self-discovery. So I can see that within it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did start blogging 2008 back on a Blogspot blog, and I didn't realize the journey that it would become and where it would go. But I'm so grateful for the internet and that little space of, I'm just going to try, which has been a lot of my message throughout the years of, what if you just try? What amazing things could happen? So, yeah.
Yeah. And you've walked through a bunch of stuff on the internet from celiac to divorce and separation to remarriage and blended families. You have 11 kids altogether in your family now? Yeah.
Yes, my blended family has 11, and actually 2 of the kids have gotten married, so that adds
There's
2
more.
more.
You've got in-love kids. Yeah.
We do, and a little rescue dog. We thought we were like, we're not busy enough anymore. Let's adopt a rescue dog, and his name is Frankie. So
awesome.
We think he's 4 or 5. We don't know.
Yeah, it's like my cat. We don't really know how old she is, right? Like,
right. Sometimes he seems like he's an old dog, and then just like today, we're like, wow, you're like a puppy.
Who knows? So what are the ranges of the kids now? Because when you started, they were young.
They were. In fact, when I first started, my youngest wasn't born. And I always think about how unique it is for the kids born in that age, because they are born with a digital footprint no matter what their parents do. There's a definite digital footprint. So my youngest now, he's almost 15, and the oldest is 28.
Wow.
So, yeah. Yeah, 28. I feel sometimes like I should be 28, and then I'm like, no, I'm not.
Well, I'm so glad we're here today to celebrate your 3rd book.
It's called Get Your Spark Back. I mean, I love the title, partially because everybody gets it immediately. They're like, oh yeah, I understand this book, because either they're the one looking for their spark or they know somebody. And it was based off of the question I would get from all the readers is they would always ask me, they would say, hey, how do I get my spark back? Because they watched my own journey. Mm-hmm. And you listen, and nobody would say, how do I get my possessive?
Right.
And they wanted it back. And I think about when I had toddlers, like if one of them took one of the other kids' toys, boom, they wanted it back. And it's so powerful, that word back, because there's inherently in that is this power of, you have it deep within. Even if you can't find it, it's there.
Why do you think it's really important for moms in particular, women in particular, to find their spark again? Because I don't know if the men in my life talk about finding it again in the same way that my female friends do.
Right. I think that we probably all have different ways of referring to it or talking about it. But, I think as moms, you go through so many years giving and giving. And it's very noble. It's very beautiful. But in that giving, there can be kind of a fading of who you are, like this kind of a little bit of loss of self or wondering what's next, because a lot of us have those stories that we never thought of. Like I never thought I would when I was 20 or 21 and just young married, I never thought, you know what, someday I'm going to get a divorce. That'll be fun. But we all have these things, right? And so they kind of, the flame of who we are can kind of start to flicker a little bit. And it's important because I really, really believe that not only do we inspire our friends to keep and nurture their spark, but we inspire our kids, the next generation, about how important it is to keep that soul part of yourself alive, how important it is to listen to that. Because, you know, I have 20-year-olds and they're being told, you should do this, you should do that, you should do that. And a lot of times I want them to step back and go, well, really, you have to listen. What are you called to do? Maybe in college, they're saying this is the right path, but like my son that's going to college next year, but if his love of history is there, he needs to follow that path and make that path expand for him, even though he might not know exactly the path yet. But it's important. It models it for our kids.
Is there a moment that made you say, I need to get my spark back? Like, I'm sure there is someone that's actually folding laundry on the edge of tears right now, listening, right? And they're like, okay, I'm really just trying to keep my 4-year-old alive today.
Right.
What do you mean about a spark?
Yeah. You know, and if you're that mom or dad folding at the edge and those tears are there, I just honor those tears. I really want you to know you're not alone, because over the decade and more that I've been writing that's the number one thing is people feel so alone. And I just want to say, you're not alone. You're not alone if you've lost that spark, or you're not alone if you're wondering, like, where am I going to find that time? And for me, I had a couple moments in my life that were pivotal. With my first book, it was really about how do I get unstuck from a story that is not serving me well. And then with this one, it was kind of this space where I recognized, wow, I have a lot of stuff that I've always wanted now. My finances are fixed and all of this, but who am I now? And it was really frightening, because I'm this writer, I'm supposed to know all this, and then to all of a sudden come face to face with my own story about what do I love to do. And I ended up deciding, it was actually in running, that I have got to figure this out, because I knew the passage of time was still going. And I thought, you know what, I would rather figure it out than just sit there wondering about it and sit there with that ache inside. But it really meant being okay with that ache, thinking there's nothing wrong with me. This is just part of the story. And it's kind of an adventure for me now to decide to figure it out.
I like that. So tell me more about running. Why did running unlock things for you?
Running, first of all, I never thought I would be a runner. I grew up playing competitive sports. I grew up playing basketball, and I actually believed that I couldn't do a sport on my own. And running debunked that to begin with, which it's like you break down those paradigms. Like, I always thought I need somebody else to keep me motivated, and running helped unlock, no, you can keep yourself moving. You can keep yourself moving one leg after another. Because a lot of times I'd hear, like, you should stop. Like, I would actually be running and I should hear, like, you should stop now. And I started asking myself, like, well, why? And then I would hear, well, because this isn't fun. And that was so eye opening. Like, I just wanted to stop, not because I was tired even, or not because I was dealing with asthma. It was because I was not having fun. And so I decided, you're stronger than not having fun. Just make it to the end. And so running has been a place not only where I can think, but it's also been a place where I've been very conscious about taking that time. When I choose to run, I'm choosing to walk out of my house and all of the busy and invest time in only myself, because it's really only me running. And during the process of running is where a lot of this book came from, in those miles of, like, okay, just start thinking through, why do you want to stop? Or what if you run just a little bit more? And all of that kind of modeled the path in life. Like, what if we do that same thinking with, I don't really want to answer all those emails. Okay, why not? Because they're not fun. We'll do it anyway.
Yeah. And in one of your chapters, you actually mentioned that you have a rebuttal journal, or you used to. That's kind of what you're mentioning here, where you would lead with curiosity with your thoughts.
I would. Curiosity, I call it the art of wondering. Like, as little kids, we wondered all the time. I wonder if I could do that. And So I started to rebut and my own thoughts or wonder what about that thought. Like, I wonder what would happen if I went this way. I wonder what would happen if I changed that thinking. I wonder if all of that. And the power of wondering is it takes the pressure off. Like, I don't know if you've ever like been talking to somebody and then all of a sudden you forget like a person or a place. And then you go, I want to remember what it is. And then the more you think about it, the harder it is to remember whatever it is you forgot.
That happens at the grocery store every day, right?
Yes. And our brains are amazing. But when they get locked into that one line of thinking, we're so locked into it. We shut down all of the ways to figure out what it is. So years ago, I learned to say, I'm wondering what it is. And then I actually consciously release my brain to wonder about it. And I refuse to think about it. And 9 times out of 10, like within 5 minutes, all of a sudden I'll remember, oh yeah, don't forget the Parmesan. But it frees up. Like the wondering frees pieces of our brain that I think are locked away. And that's powerful.
That is really powerful. I think that when we give ourselves permissions to be a 4-year-old again, right? Like they ask so many questions, little kids do. And then eventually we stop asking questions just to ask questions, but we start asking questions to look for the expert so that we are doing the right things.
Right. Or we ask the questions that we think we should ask. Mm-hmm. You know, my kids have said that. It was my son, Caleb, the one that's going to college. And he said he went to orientation. And he said, sometimes people would ask questions that he goes, I feel like they're asking questions that they knew the answer for. And I thought, that's so true. We go through this spot where we feel like our questions either have to be correct, like it's a good question to ask, or they need to impress, and it's a little bit nerve-wracking to ask the question where you really need to ask the question. Like, I don't know how to do that. Mm-hmm. But in those questions where you say, you know what, I'm curious about it. I'm wondering, I don't know how to do that, is when we open up actually a dialogue between us and somebody else. Most people aren't going to be like, I can't believe she didn't know that. Most people are willing to actually help. And that's what I've had to teach my kids. Like, you know, just most people are that way.
Yeah.
So,
most people really do want to help. And I always feel so excited when someone asks me a question that they were like scared to ask.
Right. Yeah. There's power in that. It's a level of vulnerability, I think, that in our socially curated world, and even the world, like when I look back at like in the 50s or 40s, what I perceive, it's we seem to like have to present ourselves a certain way. You know, like when I was a kid, you would get ready for church and you present yourself a certain way, and you go to school and you'd meet your teachers and present yourself a certain way. And it was always, you had to fit into this. And there is, you know, good with some social constructs, but sometimes that presenting ourselves, we end up losing ourselves within that identity of, okay, I have to show up a certain way all the time.
Yeah, I grew up in Michigan, and I kind of wonder what it would have been like to be judged by my Jell-O salad versus like my social media feed.
Jell-O salad. My grandmother used to make one with carrots and raisins in it.
Like my favorite is like the layered rainbow one that takes hours. Like I don't think I have the patience to actually do it, but
Exactly. If it was a church potluck and that rainbow salad was there, the layers of it, I was all in.
Yeah, totally. That was the winning one all the time.
Yeah.
But I wonder, we have this curated idea, but there's always been curated ideas about how people were comparing themselves to each other. So it's just good to remember that sometimes.
Yeah. And it's not that I always try to say, you know, sometimes it's not even a negative. It's just the construct of the world we live in. We need to have some sort of parameter. Otherwise we're all running all over the place. And it's just figuring out the balance in the culture that we live now. A lot of times people ask me, well, how does your parenting style compare with your parents' parenting style?
Ooh.
Well, they're totally different. And it's not like when I was a kid, I was like, ooh, that's a good note. I'm going to take note of what my mom and dad did here. Right. I like that. But when you look at the world, my parents grew up like, my mom was like progressive, pushing the limits, working mom in the 80s with the big shoulder pads. And the world was so different. So it's really, you can learn from the past, but I can't say, wow, that was way better, because the foundation is totally different.
You can't even replicate it.
No.
Like
exactly.
the neighborhoods aren't the same. Like people are always like, kids need to go outside more. But I was like, yeah, but no one else is outside with them. Like,
right. Yeah. I like to, that's one of my favorite things is those kind of rebuttals to that. Like I remember years ago, something about the media is TV and all that. And I remember thinking back, some of my best memories as a kid were watching Family Ties with my parents on TV. Like that's a solid memory. And for now, my kids have connections with their siblings all over the country, thanks to FaceTime. So we can't just throw the baby without the bathwater, or whatever that phrase is. We can't do that.
Totally.
There's power in the technology. We just have to learn how to adapt and use it now.
That's part of looking at problems like being a beginner, right?
Mm-hmm.
And learning how to just being willing to take the risk. One of your stories in your book is about trying CrossFit. Do you still do CrossFit?
No, but I would like to again. I don't, because I've dedicated so much time right now to running. My CrossFit journey was definitely a beginner because, again, growing up playing competitive sports, basketball, volleyball with a team, and then a little bit of running prior to that. And then when we did CrossFit, it was so out of my realm of what I knew. Like I didn't even know what these like clean and jerk and push, all these like weird technical terms were. I didn't know it, but I decided that's okay that I don't know. And I just embraced doing it. Like one time there was one of those ropes that goes to the ceiling and they were going to try to teach you how to climb it. And I thought if I had never, I got up like maybe 5 feet, but I was pretty proud.
That's awesome.
But I know. But I was like, if I hadn't done that, I would have never done it. And nobody was like, wow, you only did 5 feet. Everyone was like, oh my gosh, you got up another. You have to kind of pull yourself up, and people would cheer on. And CrossFit taught me the power of a community. And it also taught me the power of sometimes we put our limits that are much too small. And I give an example of, there was a time where I was doing like a deadlift and I was super, super proud. Like I think I lifted 130 pounds or something like that. And it was amazing. And I was content to walk away. And then somebody else said, why don't you add 10 more? And I'm like, are you kidding? And then they just put it on. And I ended up lifting it and then doing it 5 times more. And I thought that is the power of a community. Is I would have walked out being unbelievably proud of the 130 pounds and rightfully so.
Right.
But my community was like, you know what, you can do a little bit more. And they put it on, they cheered. And as a result of it, I broke through a limit that I didn't even know I had.
So how does a person find community nowadays?
Well, you have to be, exactly. You have to be willing to find it. That's the thing. It doesn't just come in your lap, and finding yourself in uncomfortable spots. A lot of times it means like joining the moms group or looking at Facebook and there's another like a mom's meetup, trying CrossFit, going to Pure Barre, all these different things, just putting yourself in a situation where there would be other people. And you can't find it. I mean, you can find community on Facebook or social media too, but you have to be intentional about cultivating it. Friendship throughout the the history of time, it's work. It's an investment. It's showing up. It's being willing to say, okay, I'm going to meet you today, or letting go of your busy and all of that. It's not what we see on TV, that like, oh, instant friends. It's work.
Very much work. Part of our story is that I'm a military spouse and we've moved, is it 10 times in the last 20 years?
Okay.
And so I've learned, just as my tip to throw out there for community, is sometimes just being the one to start it and remembering that other people, even if they've lived there forever, are probably lonely.
Right.
And people will show up.
Yeah. I don't even know. Maybe you know that my husband's dad was military. So he grew up a military brat like that. Mm-hmm. And he has tips for kids about starting school as the new kid all the time.
Yep.
How do you exist as the new kid? And he has all those stories about it. And then we have two of our kids, the two that have now married. They're both in the military. And that's one of the things my daughter will tell me is in order to feel comfortable in that place, it's about putting yourself out there, meeting new people, being willing to show up at the picnic, even though you don't want to go, showing up because there'll probably be somebody else that doesn't want to go. But underneath that not wanting to go is the hope they meet somebody else.
Absolutely. And deciding that you're worth being a friend to someone when you show up, like not hiding in the corner when you're at the event.
Right. Which takes work, especially if you're an introvert or I always tell people too, like I'm a extroverted introvert. So I'm pretty good in social situations, but I get really tired real quickly. So I tend to like just go off to the side, but it does take saying hi to somebody. It takes looking for somebody new. My husband, Dan, will tell the kids when they go to anything new at school, like orientation, to look for the kid that's alone and go up and say hello, because that person is needing somebody else to be that friendly face to them. And who knows, it could be your next best friend.
Absolutely. And sometimes one of the reasons that we hold back from community is that somehow we've deemed socializing as wasting time. Yes.
That's, that's a very, when you really think about it, like when you say it, you're like, that's so sad because the world is built on community. Right. I think back to, which I loved with the concept of fire, like everyone would gather around the fire and tell stories, or some of my best memories as a kid are camping around the fire, telling stories, and that's community. And I will never look back at that and think, wow, we really wasted a lot of time that night.
Right.
I'm so grateful. I have this memory of being on the north rim of the Grand Canyon with my dad and him pointing out the constellations that we could see. And were we busy? No. But was it one of the most productive and beneficial times in my life? Yes. Did I know it then? Probably not. But now it's one of those core memories.
So what does it mean to waste time? Because I think when we're trying to get our spark back, you had a really good definition about wasting time, because I think that's one of the hurdles for a caregiver, a mom, is thinking that they're not worth the time.
I think that wasting time is when we just keep denying ourselves. Like it's the inverse of, we think, I'm going to just keep going and just keep busy, just keep thinking about it, but not doing anything about it and putting it off till someday. That's my big thing. Like, I'm just going to put it off. And in that kind of limbo, purgatory space, we're actually not accomplishing anything. It would be way better to say, you know what? I don't have a lot of time, but I'm going to give myself 20 minutes today or 10 minutes today. Or I look at my sister, she's got young kids, and she was like, talking to me about my running. And she's like, why? I can't do that. I said, well, no, I get it. Like, I can't imagine investing that time when my kids were young. But then she said, but I found this really cool YouTuber that has workouts for moms that fits into their schedule. And I was like, then do that. That's amazing. That's perfect. And she has realized that 20 minutes that she does those exercises is some of her most productive time, because she's again saying no to everything else and yes to her own heart. And when you do that, when you say yes to your soul and your heart, you're never wasting time.
Have you seen the video about like filling your own cup, where like they show the cup and like it's being poured out to other people, but then the idea of filling your own cup and like keep filling it until it like overflows into all the other cups?
Oh, I haven't. That's powerful.
So I think that's what you're saying is like, we need to pour into ourselves and love ourselves and to nurture that ember so that it overflows into the other areas instead of tapping ourselves out.
We do. And people know the, put your oxygen mask on first analogy. I like to think of it as if you got in your car and you had to go to an appointment and your kids were in the back and it said, you have 22 miles left on that tank and your appointment was 41 miles away. There's no way, even if you were late, that you would think, guys, we're going to make it. I'm just going to coast. Like, there's no way. All the reasonings that we give ourselves that we should just keep pushing through. Like, if you can put it back to that analogy of your vehicle, there's no way you would stop. You wouldn't feel guilty about it. You would be like, phew, glad I did that. And you would take care of it. And that's the same with us. We absolutely have to ensure that our own spiritual tank, our physical, all of that, who we are is full, because otherwise we are just constantly pushing ourselves and worrying, like, and wondering if you're going to burn out. Because if I was driving and trying to coast, I would be stressed the entire time.
Oh, absolutely. But okay, so here's the real question. Are you wait until the gaslight turns on sort of person in real life?
Not really. I don't like that. I actually don't like that. Partially because, which kind of goes with the finance part in my book, there was a point in my life where I didn't have enough money to fill my gas tank. So now I don't like that. Also, I grew up in the North, and when you grow up when it's winter, and you just don't let my dad just taught me, don't let it get underneath half or 1/3 full because of it freezing up. So I tend to be, as soon as it hits quarter tank, I'm at Kroger getting gas. Now, my car, my Jeep does have that thing like, you have 52 miles. So sometimes I'll be like, okay, I can get here and back. But I feel that pressure. And if the low fuel comes up, oh, game over. I have to stop.
I'm wondering how many people give themselves space. I think that's part of the not even realizing that your ember is a flicker, is that there's just so much pressure around that you don't notice that the pressure has built up.
It has, definitely. And, if you think about it this way, like, there was a song I grew up when I was a kid, that This Little Light of Mine, and there was 2 ways that you're going to let it shine. And I kept thinking about that with this book, is you don't want to blow it out and you don't want to put it in a box. And I think that's the pressure, like the box or hiding it under a basket or something like that. It's this pressure. And what happens is if it's hidden, fire and your soul needs oxygen to grow. And if the pressure's there, it's like the box, and it's slowly putting it out to the point where you don't even know, like,
right.
'Cause it's so gradual.
That smolder. Yeah.
Yes. And it's not out, it's there, but you have to be willing to release the pressure, to take the box off, to be willing to say, and breathe life into your heart again. You have to actually be like, okay, I am feeling the pressure. And I think that's important, is being willing to say, I'm feeling this. I am feeling pressure. And then not going, what's wrong with me? Is going, I am feeling pressure, and it's my responsibility, because I love myself so much, to figure out how to alleviate the pressure, how to change it. Because I think what happens is I feel pressure, I feel overwhelmed. And then the inner critic's like, well, what's wrong with you? If you could just keep it together, you wouldn't feel this. And it's not that inner critic, that part of us, it's not really serving us. The pressure isn't necessarily bad. It's just like, it's like the low fuel sign on your gas tank. Bing, it's alerting you. Yeah. Like, whoa, you better take care of it.
Pay attention here.
Right. And if you think, whoa, you would fill up your gas tank, it's the same for your life. Pay attention. What do I need to change?
So if you were having little kids like your sister, what's an easy way that you could add? Let's throw out some ideas for different age groups.
So with kids, I learned to love the nap, which everybody always hears, take care of the nap. And, and I actually, there's a couple things. Sometimes people would say, well, make sure you just do whatever you want for yourself. And for myself, what really made me happy during that time was tidying up the house, and because it allowed more space for me to be a better mom. And I feel like we need that permission. Like, it's maybe not necessarily like you're just going to sit and watch Netflix. Maybe it's like, what are the things causing me pressure right now that I could do during this space? And maybe it's, I'm going to text a friend, or I'm going to read a book, or for me, that's when I started writing. But it's really looking for the windows of time in there, and they're going to be small. When you have little kids, those windows are so small. Yes. And being willing to love those little windows, and not comparing it to a mom like me, whose youngest is 15, where now my windows are very large, and I'm like, hey guys, you want to do something? No, not now. So
right. They have their own lives. Yeah.
Right. So in being okay with it, as a mom with older kids, I would never say, oh, just wait, or enjoy those moments, because it's so hard. It is so hard during that time. I just want to acknowledge all those moms and say, I see you. I watched my sister at the lake, and it's not only hard, but it's exhausting. And those are the moms where I just want to say, you are doing an amazing job. Even though it feels like all day, you are just moving from one thing to the next thing to the next thing.
And I think it's really good. I love that you said to pay attention to what lets the pressure off for each mom, because it is individual.
Mm-hmm.
For
it's very individual.
Family, each kid, like there's different dynamics with each kid. And you're like, okay, if at the end of nap, this has been done, or at the end of 2 minutes, I used to set 2-minute timers on my phone, and have alarms go off while my husband was deployed to like reset my brain of like taking care of myself. Like a 3 p.m. alarm, like, hey, I get 2 minutes right now to go hide in the bathroom and do something, wash my face, or, brush my teeth. A lot of time brushing your teeth like resets the day.
It does. It does. And I like it that you said that. I think in one of my articles, why being a mom is enough, I mentioned, you barely get through the day and can brush your teeth. And somebody asked me about that. Like, you don't have time. I'm like, have you had little kids sometimes? Like, you just need a break.
Yeah. Like those physical needs actually get pushed aside, and that's not abnormal.
Right. I remember, years ago reading about, going to bed, having your kitchen sink clean, shining your sink. And that was one thing I tried to adopt as a mom when I had little kids, because there was some truth to that about when I would wake up, if the kitchen was chaos, then I would immediately go into chaos.
Did you get tense? I always get tense.
Yes.
If I walk into a messy kitchen. Mm-hmm.
Instantly, like it just grumpy. And I thought, okay, how long does it take me to clean the sink? And most of the times I would try to do that. Or I've taught my kids, like, do you know that when you throw your clothes on the floor and it builds up, then it's going to take you a half hour, but it takes you probably 7 seconds to put it away. But it's that discipline of taking those 7 seconds and realizing those 7 seconds actually probably saved you 20 minutes of time.
And it was permission early on to like run the dishwasher if it only had 10 things in it.
Amen.
Like it didn't matter if I was running it every night. That's what the magic was, no matter how much was in it.
Yeah, that's super good. I love that.
So what else is working for you right now? If you were to give one more piece of advice before we wrap up the show, what's one thing that you want people to walk away with, besides the fact that your book comes out, Get Your Spark Back, on August 27th? So they need to know that.
They do. For me, the thing is, it's small incremental changes. And as a writer, I've written that for years and years and years. And I've called it just this extra 10% or the 10th. And going back to my running analogy, I realized one year I decided to run 1,000 miles, which when I look back, I'm like, wow, that was a very audacious goal, but I'm grateful I did. But I needed to rack up these miles. And I realized that my cul-de-sac by my house, it was a 1/10 of a mile. And if I got back from my run and I decided just to run the cul-de-sac at the end, after 10 days, it would be a mile, and it wouldn't feel like I was doing it. Like if I was just to say right now, I'm going to go run a mile, I'm like, oh, I don't know if I want to do that.
Right.
But if you can do just a tad more, just a little bit, where it's not like it's crazy. It's just this little bit, that little bit of pushing, just like that extra 10 pounds on that CrossFit bar, really adds up. And that's the investing in yourself. It's deciding, you know what, I'm going to get up 10 minutes earlier, or I'm just going to do this one thing, or I'm going to write for 10 minutes, or I'm going to try that class. And those little incremental changes, I can guarantee you after a year of doing them, you will not be in the same spot.
I love that, because at the end of the run, that little cul-de-sac probably felt 99% possible too. Like it wasn't that much.
Right.
Like the success rate, you're like, oh, like it's just a couple more steps.
It did. And many times I would be exhausted, but I would tell myself, I knew I could do it.
Right.
That was the amazing lesson in it. Like it wasn't that, and most of the times sometimes it wasn't fun, but I knew I could do it. And I never regretted doing that. That's the other thing about doing that little bit is, like when I go for a run, or I write, or I call that friend, or I go out, because sometimes at night I'm like, oh, I don't really want to go out. And then I get back, I'm like, we should do that all the time. It's that not regretting it and looking at that, like, you know what? I won't regret reaching out to that friend, or sitting in the coffee shop, or, spending that time, because in the end of whatever, those little moments matter.
Make it simple.
Yeah.
to say yes
Yeah.
to.
Make it simple.
So what is working right now for self-care for you? What's a self-care action? We've talked about a lot of things here, but what's something self-care wise that a mom could do today that works for you?
All right. Well, I have a couple things. One, I see a counselor, which I think is super beneficial. I always wanted to talk about, you need someone in your corner. Mm-hmm. And then I take a meditation class, which I think is fabulous. And I love this class because nobody gives advice. You just talk and then you just say what you are and then you just have your moments, and it's powerful. But other than that, I get up early, and that's been the hugest bit of self-care is I get up probably an hour and a half, 2 hours earlier than my family. Now it might be the opposite for you,
right?
But that moment of stillness in the house before the busy of the day has really allowed me to fuel who I am. And sometimes, some mornings I'll do the New York Times crossword puzzle. I mean, but is it wasting time? No, because it's something that I like to do.
You're being a friend to yourself.
Right. So I think that's important is, a lot of times right now there's that kind of learn to love yourself in the journey or romance yourself. It's being willing to invest in things that you love.
I love that. So with all the kids in your house and far away and close by, how are you having fun as a family? Or what's an idea that a family can just play? Because I think play is the glue.
It is. So during COVID, our family became a huge hiking family. And we ended up loving hikes because you couldn't do anything. And my husband loves to hike. And I have all of these pictures of us hiking. And one year we made a little thank you, happy birthday video to my husband, and everybody without me talking about it asked to describe him, and they would say hiker. And I thought that was the glue in the family. And it's figuring out what people in the family like to do. Yeah. And investing in it, even if it might not be the thing you like to do. And that kind of is a cool glue, whether it's going to the pool or hiking. Or for a while, when the kids were around the same age, we thought we want to keep them at the dinner table longer. So we started doing trivia at dinner.
Ooh.
And they loved that. It worked for a while. They would be like, they would actually go get the cards. So it's being intentional with that. When they're young, family fun stuff, a lot of times for us was I just remember watching movies. Yep. It was easy. They loved it. And then I look back at my own story, and some of my favorite times was Friday night movie night with my parents.
Yeah, that cuddle time on the couch. I know that there's memes saying your kids will never remember watching TV or screen time, but I totally do. And so thank you for normalizing this.
Yes. I mean, I honestly, some of my best memories were the movies the VHS that they would pick up, and it was whatever Walt Disney movie. And I still remember the first time I watched Swiss Family Robinson, the Disney version with my parents, just having the greatest time. And it's makes me think I should probably tell my parents thank you, because they actually made a choice to stop at the video rental place and to get it and to sit down and do that. I'm sure they had a million other things to do, but they knew I'm going to take that time.
Right. And I think that's the thing that we need to do more is to make choices.
Right. Right. And be proud of the choice. Be proud. Maybe your friends are like, we read books tonight. And I'm like, great. I love you for that. And
that's your thing. Congrats.
Right. Being proud of your family's choice and not feeling like somebody else's is a decider for the value of what you do or what you need to do.
That's really important. That's a freedom maker right there. So thank you.
Yes.
So where should people find you one more time on the internet?
All right. Most people find me two places. My website, findingjoy.net. And then on my community, it's on Facebook, Finding Joy blog. If you type that in, my face will pop up, blue check mark, and awesome. I'm there.
Hurrah! Well, thank you so much. I can't wait to hold the physical copy of your book. I have my home printed version, and it's been such a joy to read. I can't wait, and I can't wait for other people to do it. This is the book I needed at this time as a mom with a kid going into her senior year here, and there's all the dynamics of the first senior of a family.
Yes.
And so I'm glad you wrote this. It's perfect timing for me. So thank you.
You're welcome. My heart feels the senior part for you. So I will tell you that senior year taught me the definition of bittersweet. It's just this beautiful place of letting go being so proud, and all the emotions at once.
Thank you. That's what I need.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to do a giveaway, but first I need to leave a secret Easter egg for Rachel, and I forgot to tell her this in the episode. You have always been exactly the right mom for your kids, and it's been a joy seeing you mother and to virtually get to mother shoulder to shoulder with you. Thank you. And for everyone who just finished listening that's not Rachel and really thinks, oh, I need a copy of this book, I personally am going to give away 2 copies of this book. And here's what you need to do. You need to send me a picture of a fire, a fire pit, a fire, however, maybe it's you with a candle, you with some sort of flame. Send me a picture of that by September 1st. And then I will put your name in a drawing and I will draw it live on Instagram and pick a winner. And I will mail out 2 copies of this book. Okay. Because you have also always been exactly the right mom for your kids. And I am so glad that you are here on earth. Find your spark. Protect your spark. Flame your spark. We need you. We need you. Have a great day.